I need some lights.
Okay, you guys are live.
Okay. Good. Okay, we'll begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Swirsky,
Aye.
Baylor,
Aye.
Samples.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
Thank you. First, I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Okay, hearing none against, that will pass. At this time, I'd like to hear a motion. Motion to suspend all council rules that require that legislation first be considered by committee. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Can you turn that down? Sorry, turn it down. Motion to suspend all council rules that require or contemplate in-person meetings and in-person voting.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, hearing none, that issue will pass as well, that rule. With that, we have on our regular list of legislation, the first item we had a public hearing on last Monday. And of course, our meeting was suspended or didn't go forward. So we will have a public hearing this evening, if I'm correct, Sarah?
Yes, correct, on items number 1 and 2.
Okay, so therefore on items 1 and 2, I'll recommend time. And then we'll conduct that public hearing this evening, at which time, of course, the committee will make a recommendation to all of council. Okay, so item number 3, though, we do have a public hearing on, correct? And I'll go ahead and read that in. Okay, so this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. Is there, well, we'll just go over the, for those that are attending via Zoom, what we'll do is we will conduct the public hearing here this afternoon, and we'll conduct a second one today at 7 o'clock. And we will hear from those that wish to testify. We'll get a report from the planning department, and then we'll open up the public hearing, and we'll receive testimony for those that are in favor, those that are against. We'll repeat that this evening at 7 o'clock at that public hearing. After that's over, the committee then will make a recommendation to all of City Council for those that wish to testify. And also, the committee will make a recommendation that we either go forward and approve, disapprove, or just take time and table the item. Is there folks here that need to be sworn in, Ms. Viviano?
Not for the very first one, not for 506 Darrow Road. We have no one in the waiting room for that particular public hearing.
Okay, so I assume that's okay, Mr. York, then we'll just go ahead and swear in everybody for the second one then? Separately.
Yes. Do you want to finish the first one and then swear them in for the second one?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Here. Okay, very good. So the first item that's up for public hearing today is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 506 Darrow Road and declaring an emergency. Mr. Antonucci, are you here to provide a report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. John K. Phillips is requesting permission to construct a 28 feet by 44 feet for 1,232 square foot detached garage on his property. It's to be approximately 17 feet tall. The proposed garage is to be situated on the north side of the property, 6 feet from the existing accessory structure and 3 feet from the property line along the north. The structure will be a pole barn construction set on a cement base with a metal roof and siding. The oversized garage constructed at that location on the property would not be out of character for that neighborhood due to the large property and low density of structures in the area, and as such should not have a negative impact on surrounding properties. The garage would only be used for the residential purpose of storing vehicles, tools, lawn care, and other personal equipment. Both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you for the report, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to testify, wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Lori, can you check the door? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone wishing to speak against? Very good. We'll close the public hearing portion of this and open up to committee members. Are there any questions or comments? Questions or comments? Okay, very good. Hearing none, we'll then conduct a public hearing this evening on the same issue. Afterwards, we will make a recommendation. The next item that's up for public hearing, we'll ask a representative from our law department to swear in anyone who is going to testify before the committee.
There are two individuals that are joining the meeting now. They're connecting to audio.
Okay.
Mr. Matthews? Mr. Matthews, can you hear me? Mr. Matthews? Mr. Matthews, can you hear me now? You're muted.
There you go. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
Mr. Matthews, you're going to swear, or you're going to testify about 116 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and is there a Mr. or Miss Pang also?
Yes, we're here.
Is it Mr., both of you, or who's there?
Yes, both of us are here right now.
Okay, we're not able to see you. Do you have a video on your phone?
Yes. Here and here's Mr. Tun right here. We're both right here in the living room.
Okay, I can see you now. Could you both raise your right hands?
But you are tiny. Yes.
I'm going to ask you to swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Is that true?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. York. At this time, I'll read in the public hearing ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a retail use at 116 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Mr. Tun is requesting permission to convert the first floor unit of the dwelling at 116 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue into retail business that sells convenience store items while continuing to use the second floor unit in the rear dwelling at 116 and a half for residential purposes. The store will contain an area of 672 square feet on the first floor for the sale of convenience store type items and products and goods that will cater to the Asian community, which has settled within the North Hill neighborhood over the past decade. The front yard will have asphalt paving to accommodate parking for 2 vehicles. Access will be from the existing driveway, so the vehicles may be pulled in and park alongside the front of the building, the business, as well as exit directly from the driveway. It's anticipated that the majority of business to the store will be from within walking distance in the neighborhood, thereby reducing the need for parking spaces. The conversion of the first floor of the dwelling at 116 Cuyahoga Falls Avenue to a retail store should not have a negative impact upon the surrounding area. This store will provide a service to all residents of the North Hill neighborhood, as well as promote a new business within the Temple Square Great Streets District. Both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend approval.
Okay, thank you for that report, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this proposal at 116 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? This proposal at 116 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? If anyone like to speak on this?
You may not, this,
Okay. Oh, okay, Mr. Matthews, if you'd like to provide testimony before the committee, please feel free.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm not giving testimony in favor or against. I'm just giving testimony. So my only concern here being next door is that our parking lot cannot be the end result of the use of any store patrons. I think that even with the proposal, that most people are going to find it most convenient to park in my lot as opposed to the parking that will be provided. And I don't have, when COVID is over, I won't have spaces available when our program is running for just everybody else to be parking here. I'm usually overflowing myself. So that's my only concern, is that right now it's the easiest thing to do is to park in our lot and to walk into either of the houses. That has been the history of those two houses before anybody else, is that everybody parks in our lot to go there. Now it has not been that way nearly as much recently. Only some of the tenants from some of the times park there for a little bit. Yeah, that's my concern, is that I can't lose parking for patrons that may come and park there. So my request has been that there's a fence that's put up between the two lots so that it at least becomes more of a barrier to park at my lot and just walk over to the house or to the store. So.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask if there's anyone, the public hearing, is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone? Peng, did you want to make any comment?
I'm sorry, I'm muted. I was just listening. I do not have any comments, but what my father suggested is that neighborhood at the corner of the intersection, there are about 2 or 3 convenience store, and they do not have very convenient parking space along, because as we describe it in the description, that the neighborhood is more like a walk-in distance. Also, we want to follow the guideline of the COVID-19. I myself have a gas station in Kenton, and with the square foot of 800 square foot in my store, we only allow 4 people at a time with the 6 feet apart. So the commercial site he's trying to build with the building, even though if we have enough parking space, we're not going to let more than 3 or 4 people come into the convenience store at one time, because we don't have the facility of thousands of square foot. So what we suggest, or what my father suggests, is we're trying our best to have more than enough parking space. At the same time, we're limiting people who enter the store, if that's to become, to make sure we follow the guideline and have a social distancing. So what I'm suggesting is, even if we created, let's just say, additional 5 parking space, it's just not gonna have, a lot of people in the store at the same time just because. So we're trying our best with the contractor to work with the parking space if it's additional available. But as of right now, it's kind of like we're doing our best, but we kind of have a limited space parking space. And I do suggest that just because of the limit of space, we still would like to move forward, but I'm not sure how this fall between the community guideline and the safety.
Thank you.
Am I explaining it right, or do I have to explain it more briefly?
No, that's fine, Mr. Payne. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say before the committee and before?
No,
you'll
that's about it.
just for the record, I don't know if I had mentioned this to you earlier, but we will have an additional public hearing at 7 o'clock this evening. And at 7 o'clock this evening, you have an additional, opportunity to speak to all of council. After that public hearing, the committee then will make a recommendation to all of council. So just to let you know, that's the procedures. So, but if there's anything else you'd like to say at this time, you're welcome to do so.
I think that's what my father's let me know. So that's pretty much all I have to say for now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this proposal at this time? Anyone else? Very good. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was someone wishing to say something. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at this time and ask if there's any questions from any, I know the ward council person, I believe, wants to say something, but is there any committee members at this time want to say anything? Mr. Swirsky.
Yeah, I'd just like to, one question that, first just tell us what you will be providing for the community, what kinds of products, why you think this is needed, how will it benefit the community if you are given permission to have this store there?
I do believe that we are trying to provide something the similar taste of what's the community's desire, like a small snacks and something like authentic one, something more like a traditional snack space, and the spices that you just can't, go to the convenience store at the middle of the night or something like in the middle of the day, because my mom's cooks a lot. And in order for her to find the right spice and the right make the right dish, she literally can't find anywhere in Akron. She has to go down either Columbus or the Cleveland downtown. And we're not trying to be picky or anything, but we have grown up in a way where we can just throw a hot bun and call it lunch. So I think what we're trying to do is, these specific needs of spices that we're trying to get from the supplier. So in case if you just run out of something like in the afternoon or in the evening where people do not have the access to the transportation to go down all the way to downtown Cleveland, drive an hour, they could just be in the walking distance. Hey, we just need this, we just need that. It's like a little nothing big, it's a small convenience store. Will just give the community needs of what they need at home. That's pretty much about it. We don't want them to. Yeah, we don't want them
it's
to.
It's beyond spices, though. There's more things than spices. Could you go over those a little bit for us? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a small groceries, just like more like fresh vegetables. I don't really have the list of the names, but it's just like a really small convenience store with most likely just groceries.
Okay, very good. Mr. Swirsky, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from any committee members? Any council members have any questions or comments? Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk today. Mr. Tun, I did visit you and we discussed your plan. I appreciate trying to open up business there on North Hill in Ward 2. There may be, a need, just like you said, for those types of products. But Mr. Tun, I visited you once and I've stopped by there probably 5 other times trying to, I guess, wrap my head around the plan. And I have several concerns, like about 8 to be exact, of concerns regarding your property. Number one, I realize that the traffic there could be of walking residents, but we talked about Caldwell Falls Avenue, and Caldwell Falls Avenue is just a weird dynamic with the businesses that are along that street. Some have parking, some don't. You know, we just can't have anybody parking in front of that store, let alone, you know, the parking that's right next door to Urban Vision. The fencing there that would go along there, there's tree stumps in the way. I don't see how that's gonna work. The parking lot in front, the front yard, the elevation of that front yard is very steep, like about 3 feet high. I don't see how cars could possibly pull in and park in the front yard. And then how would they get out? Would they back up against traffic? Would they back up into the driveway and pull out? You know, what about the other residents that are in the other house, 116.5 East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue? I just have issues with maybe trucks delivering product to that store. And, you know, this is the summertime, you know, wintertime, the snow preventing the access to the parking lot, which again is an elevated front. There's trees there. I'm very concerned with the proposal. If there's an empty lot across the street that could be purchased, I may be fine with all this. I know that there's a business facing Main Street that has parking lot next to your driveway, but that is off limits. But there's a little section of it that's a green space, so to speak, where, you know, if that could be purchased, I may be on board with this. But I'm very concerned. I know that customers, if they come into your store, I don't really know if the first question that you're going to ask is, did you walk or did you, you know, where did you park? So, you know, beyond all that, I don't agree with this proposal. Basically, I don't agree with it until there's a better plan put in place.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. Is there any other comments or questions? Oh, samples?
Thank you. I'm not sure if this would be a question for you, Councilman Fusco or Mike Antonucci. Is there a way to find some kind of dedicated parking up there? I mean, I know the church is right next to there and butts up against there, and then you right there on North Main Street. But that field right there, weren't they using that for soccer or something at one time? Are they still using that field? I mean, I'm just trying to think of an alternative plan for parking for, I know they walk a lot in North Hill, but is there some kind of way where there's an alternative plan where they're not interfering with church, they're not interfering with off-street parking, and no one's parking on lawns? Has anyone looked at that?
Yeah, well,
Thank
as
you,
far
Mr.
as, yeah, as far as code goes, you can have dedicated parking, would have to be under control, like long-term lease or something to that effect, or ownership within 500 feet of a business. So there is the potential that they could look for some parking a little bit further away from the particular location. So that is a possibility. They haven't presented that option. They presented an option with a few parking spaces essentially on site. We looked at it with respect to there being a lot of walk-up traffic, so to be able to handle that. So,
and if I could just add, this is one reason why we will come to council periodically about reforming our parking requirements, because I think for a small business, it's a hardship to try to secure dedicated off-street parking. I would just point out there is on-street parking, not on Cuyahoga Falls Avenue, but there is some on Main Street and on Blaine Avenue, which would entail a little bit of a walk. But as the petitioner pointed out, the community is pretty used to walking. So that was all stuff that we took into account when we made our recommendation. And like Mike said, the plan was for the 2 dedicated spaces on site.
What about, I'm not sure if petitioner would want to reach out to Pastor Benny Mosley, I believe their church is closed. I know it's a little ways up the way, but they have a lot of parking at their church. I don't think their church is open anymore, if I'm not mistaken. Just a thought. I'm always going to sympathize with the small business owner, especially right now. It's just tough for everyone. So if there's some kind of way we can probably find some kind of parking where it doesn't interrupt the church or other businesses and residents, I think maybe they can reach out to Pastor Mosley. Thanks.
Thank you. Question for you, Mr. Antonucci. I don't have the ordinance. Is there a requirement right now that there is a fence that separates both properties?
That's not a condition, but council can certainly add that condition. We
Okay.
didn't add it to it's not in the ordinance right now.
Okay. Also, the other question for you is, you mentioned that, or Mr. Segedy, somebody mentioned that there's 2 parking spots currently on site. Where would those be?
Well, I know I can do a screen share and show that. So let me see. So essentially what we looked at originally, their plan showed like a pull-in parking. We didn't really like that idea because of the traffic along Cuyahoga Falls Avenue, like straight in parking spots.
Right.
So we looked at it with respect to what could fit in there, and we just drew in we got a couple. This driveway comes along the side of the 2 structures like this. There's the possibility to add 2 parking spots this way to where somebody could pull in, park in the front. There's also room between the 2, maybe 3 potential parking spots here. There will be a need for parking for the residents here too. So we're really looking at it with respect to potentially 2. Now with 670 square feet of area, really the requirement by code would be 4 parking spots, because 1 for every 200 square feet. So they're just, over the 3 with the 670 some square feet of retail. So that's essentially what we're looking, really just 2 in the front there.
Gotcha. Thank you. And is there accommodation here? I don't know. I know it's retail, and I know with retail, oftentimes there's deliveries that are made in terms of, truck traffic and deliveries and so on and so forth. How would the planning department propose that be accomplished?
Well, a truck would be able to pull in and then pull out this way, or, back out potentially.
Back out onto East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue. Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any other, I can't see the screen here. Is there any other questions or comments? I can't see anyone, so I'm hoping
Jeff,
somebody else. Yeah.
Jeff,
Yes.
Councilman Fusco.
Anybody? Yes, Mr. Lombardo.
Yes, I just disagree with the driveway angle and the East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue roadway there, because like I said, the driveway is such at an angle, any large delivery truck or even medium, I don't think a semi is going to deliver product, but one of those medium ones, it's going to be backing up against the traffic. It would have to cross over 2 lanes to get out. So I would be concerned about that, let alone, I just wanted to ask Mr. Tunn, you have the 2 houses there. I assume the top house, like you said, would be the top of 116 would be rented. And then the back house, it just has, I assume, maybe an upstairs and a downstairs for living. So let's just say at minimum 3 people. So there's going to be 3 cars. So all that said, is there room for any type of customer parking and things like that?
Right. I can't see the screen, so if someone would like to answer that, that'd be okay. Oh, now I can see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Commissioner, I don't know if you had your hand up. I did see, we could try to get that answer for you. Mr. Matthews, I did see your hand up as well. And then I see Mr.
Yeah. Am I allowed to speak now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, Mr. Matthews.
Yeah. I will say this, and here again, I want to reiterate that I'm not against the store coming in. Okay. To me, it's all about the parking issue that I'm going to have. I've never seen in the 15 years I've been in this building a truck that worked on either of those two houses with Mr. Ton or before Mr. Ton that has not parked in my parking lot. So every delivery will be in my parking lot. It just happens. Like they work on the roads, the road crew parks in my parking lot. Everybody's here. Now when they're here for a little bit, it's not a big deal if it's the right time. But it's when I've got 150 kids getting picked up, or I've got English classes for the whole community, there's no parking here. So it just becomes very difficult. I want to be helpful, but I just can't give certain hours and this and that and trying to make it work out. But I've never seen a delivery truck, and nor would I expect a delivery truck to actually back in that driveway. That's just what I've seen. But I don't know what truck driver would want to do that.
Okay.
That's my testimony.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Swirsky?
Yeah, I don't know if this adds to our perspective in looking at this situation, but at Highland Square, we have huge beer trucks that take a while to unload, that park on West Market, that interfere with traffic, that park behind the bars also, and go rumbling down the streets. We're not talking about like really huge trucks here, are we?
I don't think anyone knows.
For a small
Can I put an import?
convenience store? Are we talking about really big beer, huge, big trucks? What are we talking about?
I would like to have an import.
Yes, please.
Okay, so my store is about 950 to 1,000 square foot. So when you do the delivery, I have about 12 different vendors. And depend on the load that you order, they do not have a huge truck. So they have a huge one that will go to like the Walmart, the Sam's Club, and CVS. Those are like what you call it, a large semi trucks. The order that I order is a small truck that is enough to just go into one parking space and able to unload it with one driver. However, if you look at a huge retail store that is over, according to what I'm looking at, is if the retail is about between 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, they actually have to unload from the large truck, which is different delivery dates. So according to the vendors, for the small vendors that is coming in for the small load, they have a different usage of trucks that's only allow one delivery person at the time. And that is like what I'm talking about, small trucks. It is a small truck. I'm probably saying like F-250 size truck, and they will load it right into my store. And I'm telling you, my store is less than 1,000 square foot, and you're able to unload it down. However, if you do have store like Walmart, CVS, and Sam's Club, you're talking about huge trucks, then you require 2 delivery drivers to unload it. So what my father is suggesting is it doesn't have to have a huge truck to unload a huge amount of groceries. You can the truck, depend on the professional truck driver, they can either park right on the East Cuyahoga Fall Avenue and unload it. It's just gonna be a couple loads, or they can back into the drive-through. We can level the ground if that's a huge safety or main concern the other person has. We can level the ground with the contractor. The truck will be small enough to back in, unload it, or if there is any kind of, let's just say, a residential cars in that space, it might be probably able to unload it just on the street. Based on my experience, I have my own retail store, and we're not gonna have a huge truck or big semi trucks because we're not trying to operate Walmart. Our vendors are gonna have a small semi truck dedicated just for the small grocery stores, because they're not gonna drive around big truck with a small load just to drop off at the small convenience store. I have 14 vendors at my store. All of them, some of them even use the Ford Transit. When you talk about Ford Transit, that is like, how do I say it? It's like a town and country, but a little bit longer. So the vendor, from my experience, from my store, I've been doing this, they're not gonna have a huge truck. If it's really come down to a huge truck is your concern, then we can look at the different perspective. But the retail store we're having is less than $1,000, and the groceries and the inventory we're gonna get, they're only gonna send us the small trucks. They're gonna save on gas. They're only gonna require 1 delivery drivers at the time. They're not gonna need more than 3 loads. I can tell you 3 loads is probably the maximum. So you're not gonna be expecting 3 4-tons truck. You're gonna be expecting a Ford Transit. You're gonna be expecting Ford F-250, 350. And those are all pretty much a commercial standard size, small vehicle that's gonna be able to pull in into residential parking lot back and forth. And if it's a main concern of the leveling the ground, we can definitely have a contractor do it. But what I'm telling you is we're not gonna have a huge 1-ton truck of the size of a Walmart.
Okay.
My retail store is the same as pretty much my dad's store, but a little bit longer. So that's what I'm suggesting.
Okay, thank you. And I'll remind everyone, I'm going to call upon Mr. Lombardo, who had his hand up, and remind everyone, we have a public hearing this evening as well. And afterwards, we will make a recommendation. Mr. Lombardo, did I see your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the leveling of the ground, since that front yard is like about 3 feet up. To level the ground, you got that tree in the way too, which is by the Urban Visions parking lot. But if you level the ground, then you're gonna be needing steps to go up to the front of the house to get into the store, which, you know, steps need to be extended out. I'm sure there's code to that. I don't know what it is. So then you're backing up the steps, which is going into the parking. And if, again, that ground was level, then what would be the code to have parking right next to a sidewalk? So it's very tight. That front yard is very tight. And I'm sure the trucks that you're talking about is something similar to maybe a U-Haul truck, or something a little smaller, but it's tight. That's all I can say is it's tight. I want to see the business succeed, but I mentioned about 8 different concerns. And I just think there needs to be a better plan in place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lombardo. Again, I'll remind everyone, and including the petitioners and Mr. Matthews, if you're still on, that we will have a public hearing this evening at 7. After that public hearing, the committee will then make a recommendation, either to move forward and approve or disapprove, or take time and table the item for another week or 2 or however long. So that's how we're going to proceed. And what we'll do at this point is I'm going to recommend that we take time on the rest of the agenda. And we have no items that are new, short of any concerns or comments. We'll go ahead and close the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. And again, invite everyone this evening at 7 o'clock for the public hearings. Thank you very much. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
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 Against?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.